Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to Mumble's Masterflex for this one. Amy attacks while she controls Fire Navy Trebuchet and Phoenix Fleet Airship. At the end of turn, can she sacrifice the ballistic boulder in time to make a copy of Phoenix Fleet Airship? Alright, so first of all, this definitely does not work if the ballistic boulder died in combat. Sacrifice is an official game term that only applies when some game effect specifically uses the word sacrifice. While chump blocking or attacking with multiple creatures in the hopes that some of them will get through even if the rest die might meet the normal English definition of the word sacrifice, these do not count for effects like Phoenix Fleet airships. Neither does putting something in the graveyard as the result of the legend rule, even though it's common practice for players to colloquially refer to that as sacrificing too. I talked about this in my video titled, Does the Legend Rule Make You Sacrifice? On the other hand, we can see that Fire Navy Trebuchet really does use the word sacrifice to describe what happens to the ballistic boulder during the end step, so there's at least a chance this one could work. To make a hard determination on this though, there's one other point that we'll need to address. Both of the relevant trigger conditions are worded at the beginning of your end step. Which one happens first? Well, they can't both go on the stack at the same time. That's kind of the point of the stack. So if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you already know that when one player has two triggered abilities that want to go on the stack at the same time, that player chooses the ordering. This makes it seem really good for this trick working because Amy could choose to sacrifice her ballistic boulder before the Phoenix Fleet Airship ability resolves. Unfortunately, there's one other point that we need to consider. As you can see, the Phoenix Fleet Airship's triggered ability has an if condition between where it describes the trigger condition and the results. This is something that you might be familiar with if you're a longtime viewer also. Such templating is referred to as an intervening if clause, and triggered abilities like this have special handling. The if condition needs to be true both when the ability goes to resolve and also when it triggers. In the situation we're considering, Amy has not sacrificed any permanents as of the beginning of her end step, which is when both these abilities trigger. For this reason, we don't need to worry about what order to put those abilities on the stack because the Phoenix Fleet Airship's ability will not trigger at all. I think it's a real pity that they worded this ability such that this trick doesn't work. In the first place, because putting a token into play and then sacrificing it at end of turn is one of the most common ways sacrificing happens in the game. But also, I think a lot of people will be confused by this ruling because, unlike the rule about how to stack multiple triggers, which comes up in normal gameplay quite frequently, the intervening if clause rule is much less well known. It would have been easy to word Phoenix Fleet Airship just a little bit differently, such that the if condition does not intervene, in other words, come between the trigger condition and the effect, in which case that rule would not apply, and the trick would work the way that I think most people would expect it does. For more details on why this changes the ruling and some other ways that conditions have historically been incorporated into triggered abilities, check out my video on Burning Sun Cavalry and Tillinolly's Knight. That's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.